Yeah, I think there's been such a shift with where we all prioritize our time now for comms. When I started my career, no questions asked, I would say media relations. Um, the mistake that a lot of people are making now, just as an aside, is they think that the media doesn't matter anymore, and it actually does, even though it's struggling, and even though there aren't as many people. The media coverage that is out there provides the content that we use on social channels. So I always tell people the media still very much matters. However, I would say for nowadays, the most important thing for any nonprofit, in my opinion, is digital. It's to be up on social media, reaching people through Facebook. And a lot of people are scared. They don't know how to start. Facebook is pretty easy. Anyone can do that. But it's also using digital ads when they're trying to promote something, which are so affordable and reach so many people. So I think any nonprofit that's not using social media is really missing out. But I don't think you should ever forget the actual news media. Those are the two top things I would say. So there's a lot of work that people can get to clarifying some of the misconceptions about advocacy. A lot of people think you cannot do it in nonprofits, and that's just not true. Look up an organization called Boulder Advocacy. They have a whole thing about that, like a wonderful slideshow you can get clarifying some of the misconceptions. You can do a lot of advocacy, and it's perfectly allowable according to the tax code for nonprofits. I used to run a 501c3, and it was also a 501c4. So we could do even more advocacy at this organization. But for normal nonprofits, 501c3s, you can do a lot of advocacy. So there's huge misconceptions. What you can do is raise awareness. You can set stuff up. I used to work at the zoo in Seattle. We supported a climate change initiative, which had a direct through line to animals and conservation. So we set up tables at the zoo and gave out information. Totally fine. The general line people should keep in mind is that you should not, as a nonprofit, support a candidate. That's the general problem with advocacy. When there's a candidate that you're pushing for, using your email, your 501c3 time, that's when you're in trouble. But apart from that, there's so much you can do to advocate for your cause. Storytelling is probably the single biggest area of communications that people are not taking advantage of. In my teaching, I always talk about what makes a good commercial, what makes a good ad, and it's the stuff that connects with the heart. Some people may remember there was a very famous commercial when I was growing up, which a lot of folks now see as it was mishandled, but it featured a Native American who actually was the actor was Italian, but it's a Native American looking at pollution in a river and crying. That commercial affected people so much in America. People started recycling. And I would say storytelling is a critical part of nonprofits. You need to find the heart of a story, and that should be something that is in all of your communications materials. The number of nonprofits that I see send fundraising emails that don't affect me emotionally, they're just wasting their time. So I always tell people make sure you find the heart of every story, and that usually involves a person. There has to be a person you talk about in your fundraising pitch, some sort of emotional connection, or people won't give or support your nonprofit. So press releases have changed tremendously. I always joke with my students that when I first started doing press releases, I worked on Capitol Hill as a press secretary. Not only do we write press releases, but we put them on a fax machine. That tells you how long ago they were. Um, I still think there's a place for press releases because you can share them on your own social content. You can send them to reporters. The days of just sending it out to a big list of BCC folks, that we have to get past that. So if people are going to send out a press release, fine, but then call some reporters, connect them through direct messages on Twitter. A lot of reporters say the main way they are approached is through Twitter now. I know reporters who will say they'll get 200 press releases a day on email. And given that a lot of people don't read email anymore, the way to go to them is through just hitting them up with a direct message. Or best thing, build the relationship before the press release. So if you know you're going to do a press release, reach out to a reporter through Twitter, tag them with something that they did that you loved, start building the relationship now so that the first time they hear from you is not when you're doing a big press release and blind copying 500 people. I think we're doing better at those things than we used to, but it's still a work in progress. I would say if people write a press release, they have to remember that writing the press release is like the first step of 10 things. Then they have to get it to people through social channels, through messaging, through partners. If you do nothing else when you do a press release, put it on your own social channels and tag a bunch of community partners. That's the quickest way to get coverage now. So things have changed, but it's still important to do press releases.